Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about real world positive and negative numbers and zero. So what that means is today we're going to be talking about how in every situation in life you can represent it using a negative or positive number. Okay, so we're going to go through just two situations, and maybe after we go over these two situations you will start seeing more numbers in your life, more positive and negative numbers, and how it might apply to you. So the question is, or what we're supposed to do is, write an integer to represent each situation. And what does zero represent? So let's read this first set. That's a situation. There's three parts to this first situation. John swims on the ocean's surface at sea level. Waldo hikes at 250 feet above sea level. Carlos is scuba diving 25 feet below sea level. Okay, so I see the keyword sea level in each one of these situations. It sounds like there's three people all doing different things relative to sea level, or it seems to be compared back to the starting point of sea level. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to draw a picture to show each one of these three things in the same picture. So I'm going to say, okay, here's a mountain. That's a mountain. I'm going to get out some blue for some water. So this is some nice blue water that goes right up against the mountain. And now we're going to draw some people in this situation. So John swims on the ocean surface at sea level. So John's right here. He's swimming at the ocean's surface. He's kicking. Good for John. Okay, he's swimming. Good. So he is at sea level. Waldo hikes at 250 feet above sea level. So Waldo's way up here in the background, and he's hiking, and he's 250 feet above sea level. And Carlos is scuba diving. Carlos is scuba diving 25 feet below sea level. So we can say Carlos is somewhere over here in the background. I'm going to make him a little smaller because he's in the background there. And he is he's swimming down there. Maybe there's a reef. I don't know. We'll say he's scuba diving. He's got a little snorkel too. But anyway, so he's scuba diving down there 25 feet below sea level. So what is an integer that can represent each one of these situations? Well, if John is at sea level and the other people are above or below, we're going to say John is actually at zero. He's at sea level. If Waldo's hiking above sea level, if he's up here at 250 feet above sea level, he's actually in the positive. So he's way up above, right? He's on the top of a number line. So he would be at positive 250. And if Carlos is scuba diving 25 feet below, right? That word below tells me he's down, and he's in the negative. So he's negative 25 would be the integer to represent that. Now, if you're having a hard time understanding why, it might be because you might be having a hard time understanding this part of the question. So what does zero represent? Well, if Waldo hikes 250 feet above sea level, it says he's 250 feet above, so he's up here, and he's above sea level down here. So I could think of it like this, and this number line definitely won't be to scale, mind you, but I'm going to go for it. So if that's sea level and he's 250 feet above sea level, that makes sea level 0 down here, and that makes him positive 250 above it. That word above is really what tells us it's positive. So likewise, when Carlos is scuba diving 25 feet below sea level, we know, okay, well, he's down here, he's scuba diving 25 feet below sea level, so that's negative 25. Okay. So there's a lot of other things we could do. We could say maybe there is a bird flying, right, at maybe like 75 feet above the water. You could even say above the water. It doesn't even have to be above sea level. It's the same thing. And then there could be maybe a fish swimming 3 feet, right? There could be a fish down here swimming like 3 feet below Waldo, swimming on the surface, and we could say, okay, well, that fish would be at negative 3 feet. So we could see now when you go to the beach, you won't be able to stop seeing positive and negative integers. Okay, so that's our situation 1. It's definitely important to understand what does 0 represent in situations, and it's always kind of like the beginning point or what you're measuring from. So we're measuring from sea level in each of these situations. Okay, so this is our first example. Let's move on to our second example. Okay, here we are at our second example. Same question, write an integer, or same directions. Write an integer to represent each situation. What does 0 represent? So let's read these situations. It looks like it's a different person in each situation, but they're all related to money. So it says Meg deposits $5 into her bank account. Paulo is charged $16 for her meal. Jansen's account is credited with $10. Greg withdraws $50 to take to the mall. Okay, so let's just start with this first one here. Okay, I got blue. That's a good color. Meg deposits $5 into her bank account. So if Meg is putting $5 into her bank account, let's think about this. She's putting $5 into her bank account. How is the bank account being affected? The bank account is going up, right? That's a positive number if the bank account's going up. So that would be just 5, right? That's a positive number. If she puts $5 into her bank account, then it's going up. So that's positive. Paulo is charged $16 for his meal. So Paulo is charged $16 for his meal. What happens when someone charges you for something, right? If you go out, you buy a meal somewhere, get some food, and they charge you money, are you gaining or losing money? You're losing money, right? So if Paulo's being charged money, then the integer that represents that situation is negative 16, right? I wrote that a little funky, so I'll do that again. Negative 16. Okay, let's look at the next one. Jansen's account is credited with $10. So what does that mean? His account is credited with $10. So when you put money in your bank account, they credit your bank account with the money you put in. They don't actually put your money in the back room in a pile, right? They don't say, hey, this is Jansen's pile of money, put it there. No, they credit your money. So they put digitally in your account, okay, he put $10 in, kind of write it down, mark it down in the system. So when his account is credited with $10, that's positive 10, right? Just like if I give a student credit on a test or extra credit, right? That's a positive thing to receive credit for something. And then the last one here, Greg withdraws. So that word withdraws, that's a tricky one. Greg withdraws $50 to take to the mall. So if you're going somewhere, you probably want to take some cash with you. You might go to your bank first and withdraw money. So take it out. So withdraw. So withdraw means to take money out of your account. So your account goes down. So that would be negative, right? Negative 50. It might, in a way, you might think, oh, but it's positive because Greg is getting the money. You could say, okay, Greg is getting the money. So Greg himself, his pocket might be going positive 50, but Greg's bank account, which is what we're talking here, it's not very specific in this wording, but Greg's bank account is going minus $50 or negative 50, right? And so that's those situations. Those are the integers that are represented. But now we want to think about this last question here. What does 0 represent? So in all these situations, people are spending money, and we want to think about what does 0 represent. So let's think about the first one. Meg deposits $5 into a bank account. So we want to think, what are we measuring from, or what is the original number? And I would say the original number here is however much money was in Meg's bank account. So what represents 0 in situation 1 with Meg here is actually the amount of money that was in her bank account before the $5. So you could just say the original amount of money, or the money Meg had before putting $5 in. Now the next one, Paulo is charged $16 for his meal. It says her, but I think that was a typo. For his meal. So what represents 0 here? Well, 0 could be the amount of money he had in his wallet before being charged $16, or the amount of money he had before spending the $16. So it sounds a little repetitive from question 1, and it is, but it's still the concept of 0, right? It's what we're counting from. So if he's charged $16, what we're doing is we're counting down $16 from wherever the situation began, which is however much money he had before he spent the $16. So how about the next one? Jansen's account is credited with $10. Well, once again, a very similar answer. If his account is credited with $10, that means we're counting $10 up from how much money he had. We're not told how much money he had. So some people will say, well, in this situation, 0 is $0, right? If he starts at $0, but we don't know that. We just know that Jansen's putting $10 in his bank account. I'm hoping his bank account was not empty to begin with, right? So that in that situation, once again, just however much money he had in his bank account before the $10 was credited. Then last, Greg withdraws $50 to take to the mall. Now 0 probably shouldn't represent, or $0 shouldn't represent 0 in this situation, right? Another common mistake. So you might think, well, 0 represents 0 because we're talking about money, but if he's taking $50 out of an account, that must mean there was money in there before, right? Hopefully, unless he's going into debt just to go to the mall, which that wouldn't be good. So once again, in this last situation, what represents 0? Well, the amount of money he had in his bank account before withdrawing the $50. Okay, so there's not a whole lot of fancy stuff to go on with these problems here. There's nothing crazy, and I know the answers sound repetitive, but it is important to think about, okay, well, what represents 0 in this situation? And it's just wherever you started from. So whether she makes a deposit of $5, right? If she makes a deposit of $5, this isn't $0, right? We're not saying that this 0 here, that's not $0. That's just if we say she added $5 to her bank account, 0 is whatever she had before. That's not really important to know in terms of how much she had before. It's just important to know that that represents the beginning. Okay, so I hope that made things less complicated. I know the concept of identifying 0 or what represents 0 in the situation can be confusing, but just remember that 0 always represents the original amount or where you're starting from or counting from. So just like in the sea level example, if we're talking about sea level, then sea level represents 0. If we're talking about a bank account, then whatever amount of money was in there before taking out or adding to, that would represent 0. Okay, so that's all for today on this video. Feel free to comment below if you find anything that helps out a little bit more, especially with this idea of what does 0 represent in this situation. All right, thanks for watching.